For decades, the British royal family has represented tradition, duty, and an image of perfect unity. Behind the palace gates, however, lies a world where relationships, influence, and family loyalties are constantly tested. And sometimes, the most powerful moments do not come from public speeches or official announcements. They come from quiet decisions made behind closed doors. For years, Carole Middleton remained one of the most fascinating figures connected to the monarchy. Unlike those born into royal circles, she built her own path. She was not raised among aristocrats, she did not inherit a famous title, and she never sought the spotlight. Yet through determination, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to her family, she became the mother of the woman who would one day stand beside the future king of Britain. But according to royal observers, a major shift was taking place. A decision by Carole Middleton allegedly changed the way the palace viewed her forever, and it reportedly created an emotional moment involving Queen Camilla that few expected. What happened behind those palace walls? Why did Carole decide to step back? And why did this moment become a turning point in the relationship between two women connected by one of the world's most famous families? To understand the story, we have to go back to the beginning. Before she became known as the mother of Catherine, Princess of Wales, Carole Middleton lived a completely different life. She came from a hard-working background and learned early that success was built through effort rather than privilege. She worked as a flight attendant before later building a business empire with her husband, Michael Middleton. Together, they created Party Pieces, a company that grew from a small family idea into a successful business. Their achievements allowed them to provide their children with opportunities that would eventually shape history. Carole and Michael raised 3 children, Catherine, Pippa, and James, with strong values centered around family, responsibility, and independence. They were not part of Britain's old aristocratic elite, but they created their own version of success. And that became one of the most important parts of Carole Middleton's story. When Catherine Middleton began dating Prince William, 2 very different worlds started moving closer together. One represented centuries of royal tradition. The other represented a modern family that had earned its place through hard work. At first, the relationship between the Middletons and the royal family appeared positive. Public appearances showed smiles, polite conversations, and carefully photographed moments of unity. But royal life has always been complicated. Behind the elegance of palace events, there were reportedly differences in expectations, traditions, and approaches. Carole Middleton brought a warm, family-focused perspective. The monarchy operated according to strict rules, centuries-old customs, and a carefully maintained hierarchy. For someone like Carole, entering that world required patience. She had to learn when to speak, when to step back, and how to support her daughter without appearing to challenge royal traditions. When Catherine and William announced their engagement, the attention on the Middleton family increased dramatically. Suddenly, Carole was no longer simply a businesswoman and mother. She was becoming the mother-in-law of a future king. The world wanted to know everything about her. Some admired her ability to remain calm under pressure. Others questioned whether someone without aristocratic roots could truly understand royal expectations. But Carole continued doing what she had always done, focusing on her family. The wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton in 2011 became one of the biggest royal events of the century. Millions watched as Catherine entered Westminster Abbey and began her new life as a member of the royal family. For Carole, it was a proud moment. Yet after the celebrations ended, a new reality began. Catherine was no longer simply her daughter. She was now a working royal with obligations, security arrangements, and responsibilities that affected every part of her life. The relationship between mother and daughter had to change. Like many parents watching their children enter adulthood, Carole had to adjust. But unlike most families, her daughter's choices were connected to a global institution. Every holiday, every family gathering, and every private moment had to be balanced against royal expectations. When Prince George was born in 2013, the situation became even more emotional. Carole naturally wanted to be a grandmother who was deeply involved in her grandchildren's lives. She had experience raising children and wanted to provide the same warmth and support she had always given her own family. However, royal children are raised differently. Security concerns, official responsibilities, and palace traditions meant that their upbringing followed a carefully planned structure. For Carole, this created a difficult balance. She wanted to respect the institution her daughter had joined, But she also wanted to maintain the close family connection that had always defined the Middletons. As the years passed, Catherine found herself managing two worlds. One world demanded tradition, ceremony, and duty. The other represented comfort, normality, and the family environment that shaped her. And standing between these worlds were two mothers, Carole Middleton and Queen Camilla. Both women had different experiences with the monarchy. Camilla had spent decades connected to royal life. She understood the expectations, the traditions, and the complicated relationship between the institution and the public. Carole represented something different. She represented a modern Britain, someone who built success without a title and entered royal circles through family rather than inheritance. That contrast made their relationship especially interesting to royal watchers. Over time, rumors and speculation suggested that the two women had different ideas about the future direction of the monarchy. While one represented tradition, the other represented change. However, neither woman publicly attacked the other. Instead, the differences remained hidden behind carefully controlled appearances. The public saw smiles at events. They saw formal greetings and moments of unity. But royal history has shown that the greatest tensions often happen quietly. And according to some observers, Carole eventually reached a point where she decided something needed to change. Rather than demanding attention or confronting the palace publicly, she allegedly chose a different approach. She stepped back. It was not a dramatic exit. It was not a public statement. It was a quiet decision that reflected years of experience navigating a world where every action is analyzed. Carole focused more on her own family, her personal life, and supporting Catherine in the background. Some viewed this as simply a natural adjustment. Others believed it represented something deeper, a message that she would no longer fight for a place where she felt she had to constantly prove herself. And this quiet change reportedly caught the attention of the palace. Because Carole Middleton's influence had never come from a title. It came from something much harder to measure: trust. She was the person who had supported Catherine long before royal duties existed. She was the person who understood the woman behind the future crown. And as the monarchy entered a new era, that influence became impossible to ignore. The question was no longer whether Carole Middleton belonged near the royal family. The question became how much influence a woman without a crown could truly have. And according to royal insiders, the answer surprised many people, including Queen Camilla. Because the decision Carole made was not about power. It was about family, respect, and her place in a changing monarchy. But what happened next would create even more speculation inside palace circles. And it would reveal just how significant Carole Middleton's quiet influence had become. Carole Middleton's unexpected decision leaves Queen Camilla in tears. Part 2. 4 years, Carole Middleton had mastered the art of staying out of the spotlight. She understood something that many people connected to the royal family eventually learn: attention can be both a privilege and a burden. Unlike senior royals, Carole never had official duties. She never stood at the center of state occasions, never delivered royal speeches, and never represented the crown. Her influence came from somewhere completely different. It came from being a mother. Before Catherine became Princess of Wales, before the world watched her every move, Carole was the person who helped shape her confidence, her values, and her ability to handle pressure. And as Catherine stepped deeper into royal life, that bond became more important than ever. But according to royal commentators, the relationship between the Middleton family and the palace was not always simple. The monarchy has always been built around tradition. Every role has a place. Every relationship has expectations. Every decision is carefully considered. For someone like Carole Middleton, who came from a business background rather than aristocratic circles, navigating that environment required extraordinary patience. She never tried to compete with royal figures. She never attempted to take attention away from Catherine. Instead, she quietly supported her daughter from behind the scenes. But there came a moment when Carole reportedly realized something important. She could support the monarchy without allowing herself to disappear completely. This was the unexpected decision that surprised many royal watchers. Rather than seeking more involvement in palace life, Carole allegedly chose to focus on what mattered most to her: her family and the values she had always believed in. It was a subtle move, but one that carried a powerful message. 4 years, Carole had adapted to royal expectations. She attended events, respected traditions, and allowed her daughter to take center stage. But stepping back was not a sign of weakness. It was a reminder that her identity existed beyond her connection to royalty. And this shift reportedly changed the way people inside the palace viewed her. Because Carole Middleton was no longer simply seen as Catherine's mother. She was recognized as a woman who had built a successful life, raised a future queen, and maintained her dignity through one of the most intense public transitions any family could experience. This was especially significant during a period when the monarchy itself was changing. The passing of Queen Elizabeth II marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. King Charles III and Queen Camilla inherited the responsibility of guiding the institution into the future. During this transition, every relationship surrounding the royal family received renewed attention. The role of Catherine became increasingly important. As the future queen, she represented stability, modernization, and a connection with younger generations. And behind Catherine stood the family who had supported her long before royal responsibilities arrived. The Middletons became an important part of that support system. Prince William has often spoken about the importance of family and stability. Those closest to him have noted that Catherine's connection to her parents has always been one of her strongest foundations. Carole's influence was not based on status. It was based on trust. And that may have been what made her so valuable. While royal titles can create distance, family relationships create loyalty. For Queen Camilla, this represented a complicated dynamic. Camilla had spent decades learning how to survive within the royal system. Her journey was filled with public scrutiny, criticism, and challenges before eventually becoming queen consort. She understood the importance of protecting royal traditions. Carole, however, represented a different philosophy. She represented the idea that the monarchy must also remain connected to ordinary families. That difference in perspective created fascination among royal observers. Was Carole challenging tradition? Or was she simply showing that the monarchy could evolve? The answer may have been somewhere in between. The most powerful moments in royal history are often not dramatic confrontations. They are quiet changes. A different approach. A different relationship. A different understanding of influence. And Carole Middleton's decision appeared to represent exactly that. She did not demand recognition. She did not create controversy. She simply continued supporting her daughter while protecting her own place within the family. But according to speculation, this quiet confidence had an emotional impact on Queen Camilla. For someone who had spent much of her life fighting to be accepted within royal circles, seeing another woman gain respect through a completely different path may have been a powerful reminder of how much the monarchy itself had changed. Carole did not enter royal life through inheritance. She entered through love, family, and the success of her children. And perhaps that was the very reason her influence became so remarkable. Over time, Catherine and William's relationship with the Middleton family remained one of the strongest examples of a modern royal partnership. They showed that tradition and family connection could exist together. They showed that the monarchy did not have to choose between the past and the future. It could respect both. And Carole Middleton's greatest achievement may not have been becoming connected to royalty. It may have been raising a daughter who could handle the responsibility of becoming one of the most important women in Britain. A woman who could balance duty with compassion. A woman who could represent the crown while remaining relatable to millions of people around the world. As the monarchy continues to evolve, the influence of those behind the scenes becomes increasingly important. Not every person who shapes history wears a crown. Some influence through wisdom. Some through patience. Some through the strength of family. And Carole Middleton may be one of those people. Her unexpected decision was not about challenging Queen Camilla. It was about reminding everyone that loyalty does not require losing yourself. That family bonds can survive even inside the most demanding institution in the world. And perhaps the biggest lesson from this royal chapter is simple. Behind every future monarch, there are people who helped build the foundation. People who supported them before the titles, before the ceremonies, and before the world was watching. For Catherine, that person was always her mother. And for the royal family, Carole Middleton became something far more significant than anyone expected. A quiet force whose influence could be felt without ever needing a crown. The palace may belong to kings and queens. But history is often shaped by the people standing quietly beside them.